Welcome to Good Mom, Bad Mom. I'm Jennifer.
I'm Danielle, and today we're going to be discussing the double standard of motherhood.
Womp womp.
Yeah, we're expected to do it all, and if we struggle, we're judged.
And if we prioritize ourselves, we're selfish. So what is it?
We are tackling the impossible standards placed on moms and the reality of what motherhood actually looks like. So the pressure to be a perfect mom versus reality. What is a perfect mom? Like, honestly, like a perfect mom.
Like, I think it's all like social media standards of like, you're supposed to have like the monochromatic house. Your house cannot be messy. Your
Okay.
kids never look homeless. Excuse me. They eat organic. They've probably never had McDonald's in their whole life.
Okay.
But I feel like my version of a perfect mom would be different than your version of a perfect mom.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those where
It's very subjective, but
Exactly.
everybody feels like they have an opinion.
Well, and I think that we kind of do that to ourselves too. Like we have our own opinion.
We have a whole podcast.
What?
We have a whole podcast full of opinions.
For sure.
That no one asked for.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but internally, you know, because I know that I'll sit here and beat myself up and be like, yeah, not a great mom.
Well, I would say your perfect mom is the version of you that you are the hardest about yourself
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like it's the version of you that you think you should be.
Yeah.
And are like falling short of.
Well, I mean, maybe a more healthy way is like the person that you're constantly chasing to be, like the person that you're wanting to be.
Definitely worded less toxic.
Yeah.
I was like, mine sounded like a bad thing, but yours sounded way better.
Always love less toxic. Always. We'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Okay, so how working moms and stay-at-home moms both get judged. You know, okay. So I understand that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand of as stay-at-home moms being judged is when when people say, well, they don't work very hard, or like, oh, they're a stay-at-home mom, they don't work, which we both know is not at all even close.
Mm-mm.
I like working.
Yeah.
Like just because that's who I am.
Which is like, it's an interesting position for us as well, because like I have the career, don't want it.
Yeah.
And you want the career.
Yeah, I want the career and I'm good, but because honestly, staying at home all the time, that sounds like hell to me.
Yeah, that sounds amazing to me.
Yeah,
it sounds like coming home.
Yeah, so it's kind
like
of
rainbows and flowers.
Yeah, so I'm kind of at a lot, like I'm at the same place of like who made cuss words. Yeah, like who made one
worse than the other.
Yeah,
or like, one harder or easier. I would say from like going through the things of like stay-at-home moms, like a lot of the slack they get is like that they are like can't use their husband's money because it's not their money. Like I think that's BS. Like I don't ever want to hear another woman tell a stay-at-home mom that her husband's money is not her money.
Yeah, like how is it not?
And also if he had to hire a maid, a chef, a nanny, all of these things, he couldn't afford her. So his money's hers.
Yeah,
just as much as it's his.
Girl, start itemizing the things that you're doing and hand that husband the bill.
Yeah. I mean, like I would say minimum wage is $7.50, but in a realistic world, like 17 to 22 an hour.
For sure. Yeah.
Like
why not
that?
No.
But then like again, like you said, like they don't work or their job is not hard. And I would say there's variations to that. Like if you know you're a mom and all your kids are at school or all your kids are high school, like you do have less responsibilities. But that doesn't mean that when they were younger you weren't in the trenches.
Right.
And we're like, what year is it? What day is it? Yeah. Have I showered this week?
Which I think that you can still kind of do that because then you have like as a stay-at-home mom. I mean, I don't know. The way that I look at stay-at-home moms.
You're still managing a household.
Yeah, a house and like, groceries, cleaning, like all that kind of stuff. To me, it's more of like, well, thank God they're at school. So at least like the house can look nice for 10 minutes, you know?
I feel like too, there's this like new generation of like younger women that have the opportunity, like they're not having kids, so they're having these stay-at-home experiences, which are a little different than stay-at-home moms. And I would say then there needs to be like some clarification of like a stay-at-home mom versus like a stay-at-home wife. Like there's one thing if you're home being pampered and getting massages, and you do have a much easier life, and that's so great for you that you're able to have that lifestyle.
Yeah,
but that's not the expectation for every single woman that's home, and it's not the expectation for every mother.
I think that you're right. I think that that's what people look at as stay-at-home wives versus stay-at-home moms.
Like you're just having wine with your friends and book clubs
Yeah.
and you're not covered in feces and,
Yeah.
food from breakfast or whatever it is. And some days are like that,
Yeah.
but that's not every day.
Yeah, I agree. I totally. Okay, so why self-care is glorified but actual support is lacking? Yeah. Yeah.
I think this has become a very loud conversation in the last year
Yeah.
of like women in marriages being single mothers of like they don't have support from a partner.
Yeah.
And I think that conversation have gotten very loud lately.
Yeah, I agree.
Of people, and the divorce rates just speak for it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think in self-care, I honestly I think that I do more self-care now being divorced than I did when I was married.
Yeah.
And I think it was because I was in that rat race of taking care of everybody, wanting to make sure everybody else, and then like having like little snippets. And, I think that in another episode, we had talked about how at one point was not self-caring, enough to where I had to tell my husband, hey, from now on, if I'm in that shower, I need you and the kids to stay out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how long I'm going to be in there, but I'm going to be in there and I need I need your help on this,
Do you feel like you had access to it, but like felt guilty taking it? Or do you feel like you did not have the support to take self-care? Because again, like, following back on what we just said of like, a loud conversation is
I just wanted to take care of everybody. And so it wasn't really a thought.
That's kind of where I'm at, as well as where my spouse allowed the time and was like, please go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the whole time I was there, I was never relaxed.
Yeah. And so I think it's just finding those things that self-care is different for everybody. I mean, like for me, I love taking baths. I love reading. I love sitting in my hammock when it's warm outside, that kind of thing. I mean, that's all self-care.
Yeah. But we get wrapped up in that perfect mom.
Yeah.
And stay chasing that and burn out.
Yeah, for sure. And it's no good. The emotional labor of motherhood that no one talks about.
This is hard for me because I feel like the emotion that I would most associate with is guilt. Like doesn't matter what I'm doing. I feel like I'm
guilt and judgment for me.
Like from other people or from
yourself?
From
and I don't know, like maybe both. Maybe like in my head,
maybe it's like a look that just compounds an idea
for sure.
Of yourself that you already had.
Yeah. Or and it's and that's detrimental like for me, because it's just kind of, and I don't know, maybe it's a little bit heightened for me because I am a single mom, so it's like I know like
you're looking for the people looking because you are just more aware.
That but also like my ex-husband, he would just be like, oh, hey, whoa, and kind of reel me in kind of thing. And I don't have that now. Yeah. I mean, I have you.
Yeah.
But like,
I'm like, oh, we're making a scene.
Yeah. Like, or, oh, like that wasn't the best decision, that kind of thing.
Cute look.
Yeah. But like in my day to day where I don't have that check-in point. I don't have that like,
self-regulation.
Well, I do. Yes, I do have. Thank God for everybody. I have self-regulation, but it's more of where, in motherhood, because I didn't have the best raising. And so raising my kids, sometimes it's like, I don't know, is this right? Like, am I doing this right? Like, where when I had, a husband, I could bounce that off of him or he would just catch it and be like, hey, like, let's.
That's so interesting because I'm always of the mentality that I'm right.
Oh, for sure. Yes. And your husband would say so too, for sure.
No, but I mean, like, it's an interesting, like, I just find it fascinating sometimes the differences of how we think as well as how we parent based on our upbringings, because they really were polar opposites of like, oh wow, that impacted you in this way as well.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I think, but just like talking about the emotional labor, I mean, constantly feeling judged, constantly feeling guilty, like that's a drain, man, like constantly draining. And then you go into, and some, I think, not for all, but I think that is tied into self-care as well, because if you don't feel like you're deserving of it, or, you're not going to do it, you're going to keep pushing and pushing until you burn out. And so I think that
until your body makes you take self-care.
Yeah.
And it's never pleasant.
But then if we do that, then we're not strong enough, and then we're judged for that. And, and it's just,
which again is like a ton of internal monologue.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So how can we stop feeling guilty for not meeting unrealistic standards? I mean, I think that and I know it sounds so cheesy, but like going back to really self love, going back and really taking care of
Yeah.
yourself, and like,
And understanding that just because your brain tells you a thought doesn't mean like you can weigh your thoughts just like you can emotions
yeah,
and decide of like, oh, that was kind of rude.
yeah, but
And like push back on them.
I
Like, oh,
also,
you're a guilty mom or a terrible mom, or like,
yeah,
oh, you're tired today. Like, obviously you don't deserve it, or whatever the verbiage is of like,
right.
yes, I do. Or, but like push back on the narrative that you giving yourself, because like that at the end of the day, how you talk to yourself is how you show up.
Well, and I like something that you tell me where at
There's so
first
many.
I know. Yeah, she's good at this, guy. But it of course it pissed me off when I first heard it. But both things can be true, meaning
Hmm.
what you think versus more of a logical answer. You
Yeah.
know, both things can be true
You
because
can be upset and it
yeah,
still be okay.
yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that that's where the hang up is
Hmm.
that where we have the stop of like this is what's going on.
Well, and a lot of us, and I'm looking at you here in the
Mhm.
corner,
Mm.
need the reasoning,
Oh, yeah.
need the logic, need it to make
Tell me
sense.
why this is going
Yeah,
on.
like make there be a story or some reason why. And it's like there's never gonna be that. And
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta let go of the narrative that you
Mhm.
decided for yourself that you need,
Yeah.
which is really, really hard as moms.
It is, absolutely.
I think I've just given myself like a massive ego problem because I've had like massive insecurity issues. Like even when we first met, like I would say like my personality has gotten way more out of control
I don't
after
think
going to
so.
therapy, and just in a cocky mannerisms, because in order to like combat the insecurities, I have to be so like overly nice to myself. And I think it's uncomfortable
I think that
for,
we just need to get you a makeup artist 24/7
oh
because
yeah,
guys, when she gets her makeup done,
nobody can speak to me.
that's the first thing she said to me. I was like, "Oh, how's it going?" No one can talk to me today.
No.
And I was like,
Like
"Okay."
but it's like that kind of like hype yourself up type of
Yeah.
mentality of like sometimes it takes the ridiculous level
Why
of
not?
extremes to like bring yourself to a peace
Yeah.
of like, okay, you don't have to be the best at everything, but
Which,
you're
by the
like,
way, your makeup looks
thanks.
amazing
I
today.
showered.
Okay, if
But yeah,
you've ever felt like you can't win no matter what you do, ha, yeah, this episode is for you, for sure.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, like every day where it's like I should have done this or I could have done this or
You do
it's
this to me and I can't stand it. And it's like when I'm like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, this has to be done. This, why?
yeah,
Why does that
why?
need to be happening? And it's just like, what do you mean why? Because the world will literally fall off the axis
Will
if I
it?
don't.
But will it?
And you're just like obviously don't take it well either. I take it
Yeah.
about as well as both things can be true.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think at the end of the day, like, will this matter in 5 years?
Yeah. I
Is the
mean,
fact that the desserts that you tried to make all are not good or are should be on an episode of Nailed It and not in the cute way. Yeah. Is the world gonna end? No. Is it gonna be a great story next week? Absolutely. Like
yeah.
maybe instead of like finding the negative, like find the good story.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, because it's your story.
Like we joke with your life all the time and like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens in season 3.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. We're on
I
season 26,
I
ma'am.
don't know if that's like a negative, like invite trouble type of mentality, but I feel like it's kind of changed the perspective of like, oh my gosh, like the world is ending instead of like, you're not going to believe what just happened today.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but it's one of those that I've also accepted like weird shit happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Like things that connect to each other and all where it shouldn't connect and so now I've gotten to this place where it's like, yeah, happens.
Yeah.
That's where happens comes
That's
from.
really annoying.
It is, I'm sure, but it's true. Happens.
Which I feel like kind of goes into the next point of like, why do we constantly feel like we're failing? And it's like because people are putting
Yeah.
on social media and all these things, like we're seeing the perfected,
Perfection?
like these
Perfected?
90-second perfected clips of
Yeah.
perfect
Do
lives.
you know, people, let me tell you how hard it is. I mean, it isn't now that we've got this like podcast
I
going and
don't
all
know.
that.
I'm starting
Do you
videos
know
next week.
how flippin' hard it is to like actually do this stuff? Like, in all honesty, I look at these clips now, like on TikTok and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, ugh, like that is exhausting because I know what they had to do.
What the setup requirement
Yeah,
was.
and it's 60 seconds, and you had like 4 hours of work ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like no,
Yeah.
like it's not perfect. It's not real.
But it kind of goes in what you were saying of like all these things are happening and you feel very singled out sometimes. And it's just
Yeah.
like that's because you think everybody else's lives is these 90-second perfected clips.
Yeah.
And it's not.
It's not.
That 4 hours is of making that 90-second clip was arguing with their spouse on where the lighting should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, I mean, and you can look at it as on a bigger scale. It's like everything that you've gone through in your life has brought you here.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, if you don't like where you are, move, like move. But everything that, you know, everything that you've gone through, and the raising that you had and all that kind of stuff, it's brought you here. If you don't like it, then move. No one is making you stay here.
Yeah.
But do it for you, not because Instagram, TikTok, Facebook tells you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really look at Facebook that way
I think
anymore.
it's easy to compare though.
For sure.
100%, especially if you're on a bad day, which
Yeah.
I mean, name someone that you know that isn't going through something heavy right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, like, so how do we deal with that? How do we complain? Just tell everybody we're exhausted all the time?
I mean, yeah, why not? We tell each other all the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things as far as like expectation versus if I could speak, I had a stroke. Expectation versus reality. We should do it all without complaining. We're supposed to be gentle parenting, but also raise respectful kids. We're expected to bounce back after birth, but not focus too much on our appearance. And the way moms versus dads are treated when they do the same parenting tasks.
Oh,
all of those expectations versus realities are pretty rough.
Yeah, we should do it without complaining, and we should do it all without complaining. We are exhausted. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, like I haven't not been exhausted since my oldest was born.
Yeah.
Like I thought I knew what tired was.
Yeah.
Legitimately was like, I've never been more tired. But
Exactly.
then you have children and you're like, oh,
Well,
there's
and
levels to this.
if you want to know how we feel about gentle parenting, we have an episode on that. So
We want to be good at it. That's what our episode is about.
Kinda, yeah. But we want that there's I'm not gonna go into it. Check out the episode if you want to look into gentle parenting. We kind of break it down of what it is versus what the reality is of it versus what
Society
told.
says it should be. Yeah.
And then, so we're expected to bounce back after birth, but not focus too much on our appearance.
Like we can't be too sexy. We can't be too feminine. We're supposed to be like,
if I hear one more time, you know you're 40, right? Ooh.
Or like, don't you feel like you're a little old to be wearing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Because also, too.
Who is dressing for their age? Like, I definitely take into account some things that I'm like, ooh, that's like not for
I'm not going
me.
to go in a short mini skirt and a tube top or tank top.
Like, I'm probably not shopping at Charlotte Russe.
No. Well, actually, that's not true because they have fabulous flannels.
They really? Like pajamas?
No, like ones
like,
that I wear.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun fact, Danielle and I went to a nail salon one time in a
here we
flannel,
go.
and someone told us that they were super proud of what we were doing, and we were very confused, and then we realized they thought we were lesbians.
Yeah, which we love lesbians. We're just not
them.
lesbians. Yeah.
So, anyways,
It
where
was-
were our next point? Oh yeah, the way moms and dads are treated.
Yeah, the way moms and
I
dads
think-
are treated. Oh.
I think this would come into play as far as the double standard portion of it, of when, okay, you're out at getting your self-care day and, you know, I've gotten them spa day or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, who's watching your kids? And it's like, their dad. What do you mean? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so kind of him to do that. And it's like, what do you mean?
What are you talking about?
They're half his. What are
Yeah.
you talking about? It's kind of him to watch his kids.
Well, and also too, I always found it funny where it was like, you know, like there was one time I was cleaning the bathroom when I was married, and I was cleaning the bathroom. Well, I'm sorry, I needed to clean the bathroom, which up until that point for years I had been cleaning the bathroom. and he decided that he was going to help me, or I asked him to clean the toilet. Is what I asked him to do. He did the most shitty job,
Oh,
doing it, and like, man, came out with a shit eating grin. Like, I okay, where's my applause? Where
mm,
is my crown and all? And I'm just like, get out of here.
yeah,
And but either I think that too, that's the thing, because nobody's going to come to you and be like, "Oh, look, you were watching your kids while your husband was out. That's so nice."
yeah,
No one's doing that.
yeah.
Why
Well,
are
and
we
it's
doing
when,
this?
and I think too, like we talked about this a little bit back of like the double standard
Yeah.
of like the level that men contribute over women.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I work full time
Yeah.
and you work full time, then household chores and dinners split down the middle.
For sure.
Like, there's no, the house and food and dinner are all my responsibility
No.
anymore. Like, and then I feel like that is where a lot of that single parenting comes in of like, well, I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
I'd rather be alone and then this and
Yeah.
have to start over.
Yeah. Which
Again, for them, it's kind of easier because it's like I was doing all this by myself anyway.
Yep. I mean, there
And
there you
now I
have
don't
it.
have to regulate somebody else's emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, and the toilet will be clean the way that it should
Yeah.
be.
So, what's the judgment and how can we win?
So, stay at home versus working. Do what you love, man. Do what you're called to do. If you're
Mhm.
called to stay at home and you can, do it. If you want to work and have the career, do it. Why not? I
Yeah.
mean, again, you're making your life.
Who said no?
Yeah, and the people on social media, are they paying your bills? Are they coming to help?
I wish there were some that would
Yeah,
pay my
I mean,
bills.
right. So social media versus real life. Why does everyone seem to have it together? I'm telling you, the 4 hours leading up to that 60-second video, they don't have their lives together. Like, I'm telling
They
you.
have really good editing skills.
Yeah, they do. They have talent.
But I mean, like, okay, let's assume that there are perfect couples out there and happy marriages and everything. And I think that there are because I
For
believe in
sure.
that. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, that doesn't take away anything from you.
No.
That's not the life you chose. If that's the life you
Right.
want, then start making changes to get it.
Yeah, better life choices. The guilt trip, feeling bad for missing work and missing time with the kids.
I deal with this constantly.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, and I don't think that there's a cure for it. It just is what it is. Like, but at the same time, I mean, we do that with everything though in life.
I have been very fortunate that James kind of shuts this down for me. Like, because even my mom has made like comments about things like, because so we have the rule with like my youngest, because my oldest is homeschooled. The rule with my youngest is that she wants me to come to something, I will 100% be there
For
if
sure.
I'm able to.
Yeah.
But she has to tell me that she wants me to be there.
That's how I do with mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if there's anything that you want me to go to, you got to give me enough notice. Like, obviously, if you're getting an award or something like that, like, I'll be there.
Hell or high water, I'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, there are a lot of events that I miss because she's like, I could care less, or like, grandma will be there because like someone's there. It's just not necessarily me all the time.
Right.
And so, like we'll get comments of like, oh, well, so and so really missed you today or was looking for you or whatever. And like, I used to really take that to heart. And James overheard it one time and like interrupted them and was like, well, how lucky she is that she has a mom that can work so she can attend a private school.
Good man.
And it like changed my perspective of that a little bit of like where I feel like now I need to not necessarily respond in a hostile way, but definitely in a way that's like, hey, I know you didn't mean that comment in a hateful way, but it is kind of rude.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, love that.
Like
not
like your husband now, like for today.
Not necessarily. Like, obviously, like telling me that my kid was looking for me, like, is one thing, but like doing it in a way of like trying to guilt me that I'm not there on campus a lot, like, is
so. Why does the emotional labor of motherhood? Why does everything fall on us? Because we get shit done.
Well, and I think that's a mentality issue with us is that we are independent little bad beasts and we do not manage effectively anyone.
I had a hard time asking and allowing someone to
because it's like
change a light bulb for me the other night.
I believe it.
And I was like, oh, never mind. And they were like, are you serious? Like, move out of the way.
And this one I'm learning, ironically, with my children helping me,
Yeah.
because it's like watching paint dry.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so painful.
That's folding towels. Like, I
It's
can't
so
watch other people
painful.
fold my towels. Like,
And
just
everything's in the wrong place.
yep, yep. Mhm. Mhm.
But I know that my job is to teach them.
Mhm.
And I know if I do it all myself, I'm not going to be alive to teach them anything.
Yeah.
So I think putting realistic expectations on yourself of like, oh, okay, I can do this really, really well and make an impact in this. Like, okay, making lunches for your kids, making breakfast for your kids, picking your kids up from school, making sure you're at whatever it is that the one thing you can like narrow in on and be like, I'm going to be 100 at this.
Mhm.
And then let some of the other stuff go
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
because you're not going to be able to do it all.
Mm-mm. I mean, well, and just it kind of takes a dark turn a little bit, but like also there's a lot, like I've had a lot of comments of, oh, you divorced your husband, how is it? Didn't you think of the kids?
Yeah.
That's something that's really, and that was really hard for me at
Mm-hmm.
first. It was very, very difficult for me because I felt like I sacrificed my children's childhood
Yeah.
essentially. But that was guilt that I was ready to swallow. I was okay to swallow that because for my specific situation, it was just I wanted my children to view something better in the marriage, if that makes sense. Like I wanted a better example and everything. And so I made that decision and I made life harder for me. I mean, for me and for him, because again, he's my person. He was, my best friend in the world. And I knew, like what I was doing and everything. But I mean, making those sacrifices for yourself as well, there's guilt that comes from that. I mean, and then society then jumps on you of you're a single mom and, all this kind of stuff. And there's so many stigmas with single moms. Like it's
I
insane.
just don't understand it. Like everybody's so angry, and it's like we're all so tired.
Yeah, like I
Like,
don't,
why are you yelling when
yeah.
you are just as miserable?
Well, I mean, because I felt like there was some people that whose spouses didn't want me to, necessarily be around because they thought that I was contagious, that divorce would be contagious.
Oh,
And that type of thing. And like my look at it is that, divorce is awful. Like that absolutely needs to be last resort,
yeah.
period. Like, period. It was not anything that was taken lightly. And I think that that's what pisses me off the most. And maybe, I'm sure that there are marriages out there where
Well, and
it was very flippant.
I think that too is like some of the like guilt too of like you need to share your side of the story.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
don't.
yeah, and
It's
it's
not
just
your
like
business.
no, I don't have to like
It
what is the
just
word that I'm looking for? Like
mind your business.
explain or I don't know what it is, but it's like
Expound and justify.
justify
Yeah.
any of my choices for
No,
you.
not at all. I mean, because that's the other thing is that like divorce does come with its own
Yeah.
set of guilt,
So
mom
like
guilt.
if we've gotten to this point, obviously some things have happened.
Some things aren't working. It's not
like
working.
to indicate that the children might be better off
Yeah.
with their parents divorced.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
and also too, the parents are better off and they're better, parents being not together. It just
Like
is
I
what it
do
is.
understand that like I do agree with you. Like you said that some divorces are just flippant, like marriages that have been
Yeah.
30 days or like whatever it is.
Or even like it's just a petty thing or like they there's no real thought of it. I mean we went to
it's like breakups in relationships.
yeah, we went to couples counseling. Like we tried. We really did try, and I'm not judging those that don't and everything. I'm
But
just
I mean,
saying,
like, if you think that people are to the point of divorce, like, you're assuming that they worked through the phases of trying to reconcile.
yeah. I mean, what do you think that didn't come across me? I mean, being with someone for almost 2 decades, like you think that I didn't
People
try
say
like
the
hell?
craziest things.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yeah. How to respond when someone judges your parenting choices.
Fuck
I
off.
think I'm going to push back a little bit more now.
You should.
Not in like a nasty way, but maybe more in a vulnerable way of like sharing some truth in that and not any way for them, but just in a way of like I stayed true to who I was and wanting to be soft and like
one thing that I actually hear recently, and I don't even know if I've told you this. No, I don't think that I have. Where when someone makes a suggestion or a judgment or like or something, I've in the past I've always felt like, well, yeah, but I did it because of this.
yeah.
Now it's nothing else. I don't
Yeah.
need to explain. I don't. Like
I'm just
I don't.
working on my like phrases to respond.
You have some good ones. You have some good ones that
Of
have
like
probably
just some
saved
like
people from me.
shaman say phrases. You know what I mean? Of like,
Yoda.
well, not so much of like, well, that's how the cookies crumble, but like something
Oh
about a
gosh.
tree, some type of shamany.
Yeah, shamany.
Shamany.
Shamany, I love it.
Shamany.
Shamany. Finding a support system that actually lifts you up. I mean,
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't find it for years.
Yeah, but I think that too, and not just lifts you up, but is like you're my responsible friend.
Yeah.
Like you're my friend. Like I'm like today I got pissed about something.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the person that I was on the phone with at first, and I was really upset and everything. And then I knew immediately to call you.
And then I'm like, let's all take a breath.
Yeah. And but that's a support system that I really need,
I would argue too, like, because a lot of people get into this of like, oh, it's my support system. I would argue kind of the opposite of like, don't be afraid to be alone for a minute.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, maybe you step back from that circle and see who shows up.
Yeah.
Who's still there in 30 days?
Yeah.
Who's still reaching out? And kind of not necessarily like back your way away from people, but like don't be afraid to leave an environment that's not for you.
I'll go you one better. Surround yourself with people that you feel like you are your best self with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that that's huge. Like you can have a friend group and all that kind of stuff, but if you are you're not the version of you like another
or like
version,
the traits you don't like about yourself come out.
Yeah, like they're not for you.
You feel shame when you're not around them.
Yeah,
probably
no.
I would argue the opposite of this, and this is where I'm like, hey, sit with yourself for a minute, figure out what it is you want, and then chase those values.
Teaching our kids that perfect parenting doesn't exist, and that's okay. I think we mentioned it in another episode where like I tell gentle parenting, I think, where I sit down my kids when I mess up and I'm like, hey, I'm not perfect. I am trying. Like this is the first time I've had a 12-year-old and I'm trying my best. And sometimes it's going to be good and sometimes it's going to be questionable.
I think I'm way too honest with my kids sometimes. Like I think they look to me in situations being like, oh, mom's got it figured out. And then I'm like, mom has no clue. Oh. Mommy is like trying to find directions.
I kind of feel like that's what motherhood is, period. I
feel like some moms are like, oh honey, we're gonna figure it out, and I'm much more like, let's see what happens. Like,
what I like is that I now know I'm now comfortably in motherhood, that I know when they're like, yeah, we're gonna figure it out, with no clue how that's gonna flip and happen. But we know it's just we will. Absolutely. We don't know how, but it's gonna happen.
100%. And if it doesn't, we won't care about it anymore. That got really dark, guys. I'm sorry.
Well, So what we wish moms heard more of. Man,
you are the perfect mom.
Yeah, you're the perfect mom for your kids. That's why you have them.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you were literally chosen to be their mother, and come good, bad, and ugly. There you have it.
Everything in between.
Yeah, like
you're doing enough even when it doesn't feel like it.
For sure. And share your biggest motherhood double standards with us. I mean, I don't think that we touched on all of them, but I mean, I think that we've touched on the ones that have affected us
the most out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. And so also too, like put yourself in check. If you find that you're kind of being the judgy, like understand.
And if you're burning out consistently, you're the problem.
Yeah.
Delegate to your kids.
Yeah.
Put pressure on your husband.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a knockdown, drag out fight.
And it doesn't have to be perfect either.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this like huge production of perfection.
Yeah. You people live in your house.
Like again, 4 hours of a mess for 60 seconds. Like it's so much work. It really is. Yeah. So like and subscribe, or between the episodes silliness that we have going on.
We'll be coming out soon, and we're hoping to add some more things to it. But again, we just told you how long it takes to edit.
I know.
So
and we're tired.
We're not going to tell you a time, but we're trying.
We're doing our best, guys.
We're doing great.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great,
You're
sweetie.
doing so good.
All right. We will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.